Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to this segment of Coach Gurbani's a-sabad-a-day. Our recitation today is the composition of Guru Arjan, Ghar Baisahu Panjami, and is recited as follows. Thir Ghar Baisahu Har jan Piare, Satgur tumre kaj saware rahao. दुष्ट दूत परमेश्वर मारे, जन की पैज रखी कर तारे। बादशाह सा सब वस कर दीने, अमृत नाम महारस पीने। निरभव होए भजो भगवान, साध संगत मिल कीनो दान। शरण परे प्रभ अंतर जामी, नानक ओट पकड़ी प्रभ स्वामी। शरण परे प्रभ अंतर जामी, नानक ओट पकड़ी प्रभ स्वामी। This Shabad is very commonly recited as part of our Gurdwara Kirtan, and so it'd be interesting to see how we interpret this, which is a little different from how it's commonly understood. The Rahao Pankti, the central message, is contained in the very opening verse, where Guru Arjan says, Thir Ghar Baisahu Har jan Piare, Satgur tumre kaj saware. Thir Ghar Baisahu Har jan Piare. O dear devotees of the Har Self, within the tranquil and composed mind is seated the Har, the inner self. Reach it through the enlightening wisdom, which will assure you success. Now, as you all know, in Sikhi, there is only one goal, or kaj as it's called, in life, which is to reach that state of consciousness that we call Har. In fact, kaj, in its shortened form, signifies the lotus, which is a symbol of spiritual enlightenment in the Indian tradition. So English translations have rendered this to mean to sit still, to have faith. But it seems to us that the Guru is pointing to where we have to go and where the self is. So this is indicative of trying to find a state of mind that is thir, that is tranquil. Because our ordinary day-to-day consciousness is turbulent and unstable. It is filled with our inner chatter, our thoughts. In fact, Gurbani has called the mind, among other things, not very flattering, the monkey. So it's the monkey mind. And our thoughts are really like waves of an ocean, except that the ocean is the ocean of consciousness, awareness. And the movement of our thoughts create a barrier to the stillness and tranquility that is just under the surface. As we know, in the case of bodies of water, if you penetrate the storm on the surface, you will find stillness and tranquility. So to reach that state of consciousness here means that we have to be guided by the immutable wisdom that is already innate to us. That is the Satgur. The good enlightener shows us how to commence and how to make this inner journey. दुष्ट दूत परमेश्वर मारे जन की पैज रखी करता है. The Creator, the Kartar, honors the compact with the devotee, by which the ill effects of fallacious reasoning are corrected through an enlightened intellect. So what is being said here is that when an individual embarks on this journey, the Creator within shows the way through the light of wisdom that comes from the Satguru. So as we've already mentioned earlier, the surface of our mind is a hailstorm of thoughts. And not only that, but it says here that the mind is assailed by what is called Dushtadut. Dushtadut, Dusht means a rogue, demon, something that is wicked, turbid, but it also indicates fallacious reasoning. Dut, of course, means ambassador. So, it is referring to the mind's wayward tendencies brought about by faulty reasoning. And what is the faulty reasoning? It is identification with haume, or body consciousness. That is flawed thinking, and that gives rise to existential angst, and along with it, to the ambassadors of evil, lust, anger, greed, etc. Kam, krodh, lobh, moh, ahankar. बादशाह साह सब वस कर दीने अमृत नाम महारस पीने. But these rogues and demons, the Dusht Dut, are being referred to here as sab, all of them. Badshah sa sab vas kar dine. They are brought under control. The haume, ego, body consciousness, and its affiliate rogues and demons were subdued by the emperor Har within. Badshah sa sab vas kar dine. When I imbibed self-knowledge, the essence of the immortal. Amrit Naam Maharasapine. So again, English translations have rendered this verse to mean that the devotee has subdued all kings and chiefs. But one only has to look to history and find that quite a different story emerges, which is quite to the contrary. Enlightened minds have often been at odds with political leaders and rulers. They've been called out. They've called out rulers for their treatment of the poor. We know that Guru Nanak, for instance, singled out Babur for his treatment of the general populace, and particularly of women. And we also know that the inner self, the Har, is routinely addressed as king. So it is no surprise that the Badshah here indicates not political rulers or rulers on the outside, but the self. Because if you look at the second part of this sentence, it is really addressing imbibing self-knowledge. Perhaps it would be more appropriate to say that enlightened minds can speak truth to power because their motivation is not personal, but their motivation stems from the universal good. In other words, they are free of fear of rulers and kings, because the next verse talks about the quality of nirbhav, fearlessness. Nirbhav hoye bacho bhagwan, sad sangat mil kino daan. Upon meeting the enlightened sad sangat, I received the gift of self-knowledge. My fears evaporated. I was fulfilled. Bhajo Bhagavan. So we see here the quality of fearlessness that is needed in order to be free of the tyranny of kings and rulers. the emphasis on the enlightened self-knowledge. It is that which brings this quality of nirbhav, which is a divine virtue, as we see in the Mool Mantra. And it comes about through self-knowledge. So to be selfless, to be free of fear, is to have that sovereign experience that Gurbani talks about repeatedly. And in conclusion, Guru Arjan says, Saran pare prab antarjami. Saran, feet, pare. I fell at the feet of Prab Antarjami. Prab is the attribute of wisdom of the self. Antarjami is the indwelling knower. So the Guru is saying, I fell at the feet of the indwelling knower. In other words, Nanak says, I held on to that support of the Master, because he's being referred to as Prabhu Swami, and finding shelter in its wisdom. So we see here the Guru's emphasis on the guidance of evolved individuals and the knowledge principle, the Satgur, are absolutely essential components of this inward journey of consciousness. And the goal state, as we know, is transcendent, the transcendent self, the all-knowing indweller, Antarjami. And yet, in our ordinary day-to-day lives, we tend to default to the ego mind, which is filled with fear and which becomes a barrier to this sovereign experience. On that note, until the next time, Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.